Hey there, really glad you're here today. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you're doing well and feeling good. So, the topic for today is when denial becomes real. And often we are lulled into a sense of denial that everything around us is okay, regardless of circumstance. And for many of us, it came from the systems that we grew up with, whether it was our schooling or in our churches or religious systems or in our ancestral line. An example of denial within my ancestral line was certainly addiction and certainly alcoholism. There were people that died of cirrhosis of the liver. There were people that had trouble drinking. And when they did drink, it was to black out, which is a sign of being an alcoholic. And if it wasn't to alcohol, it was other addictions like food, like compulsive cleaning. Let's see, what's another one? Just the need to control, that sort of super type A, very tight knit kind of appearance. So, all those are examples of systems that feed into denial. And I've experienced in my own life waking up to that denial, and it's been really tough. I mean, when I grew up, I knew something was awry in my family. I knew it was a dangerous place and it was something that I needed to escape, but I didn't really understand it because in an alcoholic family, your suggestion is don't talk, don't feel, and don't acknowledge. So your whole platform is based on denial because everybody protects the addict in the family so they can stay safe themselves. So a real issue again came up in my own personal life in my 20s. I started to act out the same behaviors that I saw demonstrated in my family. I started drinking to the point of blackout. I started drinking to cover up my rage and my anxiety, which it did the opposite. I thought I had fun when I was working my addictions. I thought that was the release, right? That was the relief. But actually, it wasn't the relief. It was actually another difficult method to overcome. And so I woke up in my close to mid 20s going, oh my gosh, I've got to fix what's wrong with me. But I didn't equate it to my addictions, my over exercising, my overeating, and certainly drinking. And I finally broke down and went to a therapist. And I described my circumstance. I said, my life is completely out of control and unmanageable. And he immediately started talking about how much did I drink and was there alcoholism in my family? And I thought this was like so freakish. Like I am melting apart and melting down, and you're talking to me about how much does my father drink? Was there alcoholism in my family? Of course. Like how else do you get through life? I couldn't sort of put the pieces together that the addictions were causing some of my issues that I was having in the workplace and with friends and certainly in relationships. So it was waking up to that denial, first in the family system, and then sort of denying that. And then in my young adulthood. And the difference there was I really took the bull by the horns. And I was doing anything that I could to break these addictions. So I did exactly as I was instructed, and it worked for me. I'm very lucky it worked for me. But I'll tell you, it did set me onto a path of self-realization. It set me onto a path of knowing myself a little bit more because I wasn't blocking it as much as I had been. But I still found creative ways to create denial, like the circumstance in my own marriage. My husband, quite frankly, wasn't able to pull his weight. He had no interest in it. And allegedly, he was a narcissist. And I was placating and I was pretending and I was trying to create perfection. And we had a young son and I was melting down. I was exhausted. And so, after about mm, 12 years of this, I finally was willing to say, yeah, this is not working. I'm going to be working the night shift at Walmart soon if I don't address this. And somehow I Googled the word narcissist and up my ex-husband came, in my opinion. The great thing was that it took time, but eventually I got the courage to address the marriage. And that is really hard for a lot of us, especially when we're in narcissistic relationships, because quite frankly, we're usually the light, we're usually the force that makes most everything happen. We're usually carrying more weight than is really our fair share. And we're getting beaten down just at the point where we're starting to trust again. We get beaten back down into the container. So it was really imperative to wake up to all I was denying and have been denying and address it. And then once I got to that point, I had enough self-esteem and I knew enough about where my heart was situated in my body and how I felt honestly as a present being and how my inner child felt, my spirit inside, my soul, I want to say, my higher self. And I started listening to that because when I was in denial, I was shoving that back down so hard and abusing myself again the way the abusers had in my lifetime. But this time I was taking responsibility for it. And that was the key issue. Knowing where my heart was and my hearing my intuition and then treating myself lovingly from that place on a regular daily basis and then getting the courage to express myself. And whether it was accepted or not wasn't really the issue. The issue was this is how I felt. And when I did move on, I was shattered because it had been decades of denial. And this included not just in my relationship, but in my personal relationships, in community services that I was part of, and definitely in the workplace. But I worked in the entertainment industry, and it's all fool's gold there, pretty much. Let's just say that. So, what I'm encouraging you to do today is to wake up to what you're in denial over and just feel what that does to you inside. Take a quiet moment, stop the post-traumatic stress, stop the rat on the wheel, stop traumatizing your central nervous system and your little soul being, and say, hey, I think I can do this differently. And that's enough. Like if you just go on that route one day in front of the other and try to stop gently those toxic behaviors, like just ask yourself, is this the kindest I could treat myself? Is this how I would treat a trusted friend? Just ask yourself. And then you can go deeper once you're in a more grounded place. And you also have an understanding of the dynamic because it takes a long time to get the awareness. That's one piece, right? And then to accept that this has been happening at your own hand, that you're responsible That's really hard. And that doesn't come in automatically. But the real truth is awareness, acceptance, and then you can take action. And trust me, you may be stuck in the mud for a while spinning. You may leave and go back. You may think you've got it all put away and it's never going to happen again. And then it starts happening in small increments. And that's okay. It's all part of the process. Leave yourself alone. Be kind. And if you want help from me, I do offer a complimentary grounded activation. So we work together for 30 minutes to get you into a place where you can actually do the work that you need to find that self-compassion and find that inner love. And that's the place that it takes to work from. Because when you're spinning out in CPTSD and central nervous system whack out, you're just repeating the trauma. Trust me, I've been there, I've done that. But I'm here to say there's tons of hope. SusanGold.us is the website. Check it out. I think there may be a free course still there too, in case you want to do a little writing to find your inner power. And I'm really glad you tuned in. Thanks so much. I look forward to seeing you next week.